There's very few rules, like hard-written rules when it comes to lawn care. And when you follow those very few hard-written rules and you have that basic fundamental understanding of what it is that you need to be giving your input to get your desired output, you'll be good to go. Like, honestly, you can look down your streets from the left and to the right and be pretty happy with your own lawn. That's what we're here to do. That's what we want to achieve. Let's start the season right. So I think it's important for us to discuss where it is you live, like geographically, because that's going to give you a good idea of either what kind of grass you already have or what kind of grass you actually want to go with if you're thinking about doing a renovation this fall or even this spring. So you have your cool season zone, you have your transition zone, and you have your warm season zone. Let's start off with the one that I'm not that familiar with, but I mean, this stuff isn't rocket science, so it's pretty straightforward. Your warm season zone is going to consist of warm season grasses. Imagine that. These are typically grasses that are going to prefer when your temperature is 75 degrees air temperature up to about 90 degrees. Of course, they can weather, for lack of better words, higher temperatures with adequate maintenance and making sure that you have good cultural practices. But ideally, no plant really wants to thrive in 95 degree plus weather. With that being said, those warm season grasses, if you're in this zone, in this lower region of the States geographically, you most likely already have growing in your yard a Bermuda grass, a zoysia grass, a St. Augustine grass, a Bahihi grass, or centipede. Those are your most common grasses that you're going to see in that zone. Now, one unique thing about these warm season grasses is when the winter does come, they create this like brown bronze haze through the winter. Some people have issues with that, and since your winter is warm enough, some people will opt to place a cool season grass in their yards during the winter so they can maintain a muddy green lawn year out. But that's a lot of work, and we don't really want to get into that. Let's not put the cart before the horse, so to speak. Let's stick with the basics. Let's go ahead and move a little further up to the transition zone. This zone is often referred to as the armpit of America. And the reason why is because nothing really grows great in this zone. The summers are pretty warm, the winters are extreme, and because of that, when you pick your grass, you have to accept a couple different things, whichever type it's going to be, whether it be cool season or warm season. If you go to warm season grass in the transition zone, you'll know for a good 5 to 6 months, depending on how far south you are, your lawn is not going to have any issues most likely during the summer. Just because those summers get pretty warm, but not so much and not so long that it's going to completely crap out on your warm season turf. On the flip side of that, though, is because the winters tend to be so extreme, you're going to have to be okay with having a dormant grass, that brown bronze haze for almost half of the year in some circumstances. Now, you can go with a cool season grass. And science has brought us pretty far with these different cultivars. And if you go to newer cultivars, especially turf type tall fescue, it's been found that those are the most heat resistant and drought resistant cool season grasses out there on the market today. You can grow cool season grass and warm season grass in the transition zone, but picking something like Kentucky bluegrass or perennial ryegrass or even bent grass for the transition zone might not be the best option for the average homeowner who's looking to just have a decent lawn and not overwork themselves throughout the season. So let's definitely take a time to identify that zone properly, look at your climate properly, and assess, hey, what do I really want to achieve? Am I okay with having a lawn that possibly goes dormant for 2 to 3 months out of the year because the summers are so hot? Or am I okay with having a lawn that goes dormant for 4 to 6 months out of the month, and I don't have to worry about the summer as much if I go with a warm season grass? And this is a good segue to talk about moving possibly up north if you have an affinity for cool season grasses. See, up in cool season world, Our grasses are, well, I've already talked about them. You have all your fescues. That includes turf type tall fescue, fine fescue, chewing fescue, creeping fescue. There's a little bit of overlap there, but we're not going to get into that. Then you also have Kentucky bluegrass. Love me some Kentucky bluegrass as well. Perennial ryegrass, and you'll have your bent grass. Now, typically homeowners don't really want to go for bent grass because after about an inch, it starts to lay over on itself. And it's seen as invasive in most home yards because these grasses are usually used in greens or tee-off spots on golf courses. Because of its nature of growing low and close to the ground, it's really easy to maintain at those lower heights of cuts that you'll see on these golf courses in those particular areas as far as the tee and the greens. Now, with that being said, turf type tall fescue might not be the best option for you the further north you go. You might be better off with a grass like perennial rye, one of the most fast establishing grass types, which I think it goes underrated for most homeowners. Now, this is important. Like I said, if you have no idea what kind of grass you currently have in your lawn, this is a good way to narrow those things down. If you know you live up north in that cool season zone that I illustrated to you, you most likely have one of those grass types. If you live in the transition zone, the flip of a coin. We have to dive a little deeper. If you hang around further in this series, we'll help you figure out the answer to that, or I'll give you some tips on getting the answer to that. And then the warm season grass, you know what you're dealing with down south. Now, I think it's important for us to jump into the next topic. We're building here, we're learning, we're taking this knowledge and we're applying it. We're getting ready for the season coming up. And the next thing I want to address with you are soil tests. Now, I know you've heard a lot of people say throughout these past few years that soil tests are a waste of money, and I wholeheartedly disagree. I've also heard a lot of people say, hey, it's too complicated for the average homeowner to understand. And I promise you, if you have a 5th grade education or higher, it's not that complicated. And I'm going to prove it to you in the next video. All right, peace.